Hello and welcome to Real Obscure. My name is Kevin H. Shaw, and just in time for the holidays, tonight's movie features snow, music, copious amounts of drinking, and a bunch of not-so-jolly men with beards. From 1985, it's the snowbound Swedish slasher, Blood Tracks. Blood Tracks was produced by Smart Egg Pictures, an American production and distribution company helmed by George Zechevik. Although they produced a number of not-so-well-remembered movies, such as Spaced Invaders and tonight's selection Blood Tracks, they're best known for being the company behind the original Critters, Evil Ed, and the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, producing parts 1 through 5. The movie's publicity and packaging is quick to capitalise on this, with it often being accredited as from the makers of Nightmare on Elm Street. Yeah, I mean, technically, but also... The movie was helmed by Swedish director Mats Helge Olsson, the creative visionary behind such classic movies as Red Letter Media favourite Russian Terminator, All About the Papers, and Ninja Mission. On a side note, according to IMDb, he was so committed to his craft that he actually has hearing problems and respiratory issues due to the misuse of pyrotechnics in his movies. Now, for the purposes of this movie, he's credited as Mike Jackson. Whether that's through embarrassment or a nom de cinema to make him sound cooler and more American, I don't know. Mike, also had a second director working with him in the form of British sexploitation filmmaker Derek Ford, the auteur behind such movies as Groupie Girl, The Wife Swappers, and The Sexplorer. Now, the main selling feature of this movie, if it can be called such a thing, is the fact that it features an actual rock band named Easy Action. They play a rock band named Solid Gold? Now, weirdly, the band, even though they're not actually given character credits in the movie and are just referred to as Solid Gold band member number 1, 2, 3, whatever, do use their real names in some of the dialogue sequences. It's like Schrodinger's glam rock band, being both and neither simultaneously. If you're not familiar with Easy Action, they were a Swedish glam rock band in the vein of Motley Crue or Poison. Speaking of Poison, the band did successfully sue them over their song I Want Action, which featured a chorus that was suspiciously similar to the chorus of their song We Go Rocking. Easy Action was signed to Sire Records in 1983, but after the release of just 2 albums, the band split. Interestingly, guitarist Key Marcello, who does appear in this movie, had already left to join fellow Swedish rockers Europe, who then went on to record The Final Bloody Countdown. And yes, I'm sorry, I know you've now got that synth riff stuck in your head. So apparently the band members did actually admit later that they regretted not playing themselves in the movie, but given how bad their performances are, which is probably due to them being terrible actors, but also something to do with the amount of alcohol Olsen gave them to overcome their stage fright, well, it's probably just as well that they didn't. It is weird though that the producers really didn't capitalise on the fame of Easy Action. I mean, yes, by today's standard they're really little more than a footnote in musical history, but at the time they were still a fairly successful band in their native Sweden, and it's just odd that they really don't get to do a lot in this movie and seem almost like an afterthought or a plot point. Because yes, most of the events in the movie's plot actually centre on other characters. Easy Action are just there to provide a reason for the film being set in such an isolated location, I guess. I'll give that some context in a moment. So anyway, what's it all about? As I mentioned, the movie features the fictional band Solid Gold, who are really just Easy Action, visiting a remote mountain resort in Colorado. You know, that bit that looks like Sweden, to film, as the in-movie director states, one scene for a rock video. One scene. They drive out to the remote town of High Ridge and then schlep up the mountain in knee-deep snow, risking avalanches, exposure, and who knows what else to film one scene. However, things do not go according to plan when the video crew discover an abandoned factory on top of a mountain, that's home to a group of degenerate adults, the children of a woman who, in the movie's prologue, kills her abusive husband before fleeing from the city with her offspring all the way up to the top of this mountain to live in this derelict facility. Now, as I've mentioned multiple times, the movie was made by a team of Swedish filmmakers, and as a result has some truly terrible dialogue with some really bad dubbing and phrasing. For example, after the mother flees with her children, we have a monologue explaining that for the next 40 years, the family hid out in the middle of nowhere. Now, intruders are on their way. In this weird, stilted voiceover that sounds more like something from Ulysses 31 than a horror movie. It's baffling and utterly hilarious. So Solid Gold arrive in town and are swamped by adoring fans before heading off into a cabin on the mountainside to shoot the one scene. And although maybe we do only get one scene, it is an absolute doozy. Most of the video apparently is set to feature a number of female dancers in various states of undress, wiggling provocatively in the snow whilst trying to not freeze to death. And I say various states of undress because it really does run the entire spectrum, from the skimpiest of cut up to here and down to their lingerie to a woman in a tracksuit. I kid you not. And then Solid Gold make their entrance, popping into shot and pouting. Now, it's all done without any kind of music playback, and it looks like one of those YouTube musicless videos, complete with the sounds of clothing ruffling and snow crunching. It's utterly fantastic and worth seeing, if only for this moment. Now, it's also fairly obvious that the band are completely drunk at this point, given half of them can't walk straight and the other half look like they're about to puke. We then get a sequence where we're treated to the band performing the song Blood Tracks and posturing and mincing like only the best of 1980s glam rock bands can manage. Now, the song Blood Tracks was never actually released commercially, thankfully, and the only recordings of it come from this movie, which are complete with character dialogue. Anyway, while all of this is going on, Sonny, the youngest of the mountain people, watches on, utterly bemused at the events unfolding before him. Same bro, same. Later on, the audio technician, whose name I honestly couldn't tell you, as nobody ever seems to make a point of identifying anybody other than just being victim, goes to investigate the abandoned factory to record some ambient sounds for some reason. He comes across the family and is murdered for intruding in their home. It's also worth noting that whoever wrote the subtitles for Tubi TV's presentation of this movie, yes, you can go see it and enjoy it for yourself for free over at tubitv.com or through their apps. They couldn't be bothered to do much research into this movie either, as at one point there's a conversation between male in purple and female in khaki coat. And I totally respect that. And so the movie plays out like a very slow, quite dull Swedish, i.e. very snowbound, version of The Hills Have Eyes. As for the cast, well, easy action aside, there aren't really any actors you'll recognise from anything else, with the exception of American actor Jeff Harding. That's a name you may not know, but he does a lot of voice work, including Vincent Mice on The Witcher, and is probably best known to UK audiences for his work on the comedy series The Fast Show with his "Hi, I'm Ed Winchester" skits. As for the others, Michael Fitzpatrick, who plays Bob, has appeared in a number of supporting TV and movie roles, including the UK indie horror Grimm. I once directed a different member of that movie's cast, so that means technically I've step-directed him too. And perhaps the actor with the most credits is Tina Shaw, no relation, who plays Sarah, one of the dancers in this movie. She's appeared in such films as 1992 sci-fi creature feature Split Second, where she played nightclub stripper, in the Pierce Brosnan movie Taffin, playing Lola the stripper, and in the Dutch comedy Flodder, playing striptease dancer. Oh, and she was in Ken Russell's cult classic Lair of the White Worm, playing a nun. So she clearly has range. Anyway, back to the movie. Plot highlights, and I use the term extremely broadly, include one of the band members, Pete apparently, and one of the dancers, Mary, making out in the back of a car before being trapped inside when an avalanche hits, with some of the best special effects I've ever seen. Who knew that stock footage of an avalanche combined with shaking the camera around a bit could produce such lifelike effects? Anyway, when Mary begins to panic, the chivalrous Pete tells her to "Shut up, you stupid." Charming. Now, these events are so traumatic that when she is eventually dug out of the car, she's too overwhelmed to get dressed and is assisted out of the car by a very handsy Pete into the waiting arms of the rescuers, who proceed to carry her away, naked. Later, she and I think it's Pete again, but it's hard to tell the band members apart, get jiggy in the sauna, while band member 2 and woman number 4 also have a little bit of a nudie cuddle. And of course, they die. There's also a scene where the aforementioned male in purple and woman in khaki coat sneak into the abandoned factory because the ambience there is so erotic. Male in purple, Key Marcello of Europe fame, decides to scare woman in khaki coat by putting in a pair of Dracula teeth, his plan being to jump out at her from the shadows. However, he is killed and his head is pulled off, which is then dropped into woman in khaki's path. Screaming ensues and she is captured by one of the mutants. Indeed, it seems like almost everybody ends up in this abandoned bloody building at some point, and most meet grisly ends. There's actually quite an impressive immolation scene with a full body burn, but the whole scene is ruined by the dubbing, where the Burning Man, instead of screaming, is simply going ooh, ah, ooh. There's also a great, although way too brief, dummy drop, as one of the mutants throws one of the production assistants off a walkway, impaling her on some rebar. I love a good bad dummy drop, and whilst this isn't to the standards of the Dr. Butcher MD one, which is probably the greatest dummy drop ever, it's still pretty great in a terrible way. There's also a moment where a mutant leaps out from under a blanket saying "rawr," and then later gets dragged behind a snowmobile, but in all honesty, I'm making this movie sound way more exciting than it actually is, as there are long stretches of nothing happening other than badly dubbed people having conversations about, well, not much. Speaking of dubbing, the movie has some truly terrible performances, but given the script, it's hard to see how there could have been anything else. In one scene, the character of John calls for backup from his chief, with the immortal line, "Listen, I want you up here now, with guns." When he's told all the chief has is his handgun, his reply is, "That's bad. I've got things going on here you wouldn't believe." However, I'm fairly certain there's a minor cut to the version that's available online now. I owned a VHS copy of this back in the day, which I paid a whole £1 for, which is about $2 in today's money. And we used to watch this movie on a regular basis whenever we were having bad movies and beer nights. During the Pete and Mary scene, there was a line from Pete in which, seeing Mary remove her clothing, he utters the line, "You've got boobs." I remember this became a bit of a Rocky Horror Picture Show moment when we used to watch it again, with everybody shouting, "You've got boobs," every time Mary showed up. I don't know, maybe I had more beer and I'm just misremembering these things, but I do have to admit I was disappointed when I saw that this line seems to have vanished from the movie. Has anybody else seen that version? Somebody please back me up here. Okay, so this is future me popping back to drop in an important discovery. After recording, I went online to look for the whole "you've got boobs" thing and found a reference in an article on the website Bleeding Skull in which the author quotes, and I quote, "You've got the boobs." And after revisiting the movie, I found the scene is indeed present, but wasn't where I expected it. Now, cards on the table, I did skip forward a couple of times during my viewing of the movie for this review. Hey, I've got to research, make notes and record 3 episodes this week, so cut me some slack. Anyway, we're about to head into the spoiler zone as I discuss the final scenes of the movie. A couple of survivors escape in a helicopter as the factory burns with Mutant Lee inside, and then a woman says, "Oh my god, he's still down there," and then it ends. Blood Tracks is one of those movies that's a prime example of how a bad movie can go so far into the realms of being terrible that it somehow emerges from the other side as a really entertaining film. Now don't misunderstand me, this is a terrible, terrible movie. It has a nonsensical plot, terrible acting, awful dubbing, bad special effects, inept direction, and moments of WTF-ery that will just leave you wondering if the writers and directors also needed some liquid courage to help them make this movie. From a technical, craft and expertise point of view, it has no redeeming features. And yet it's incredibly enjoyable and fun if you can just sit back and enjoy the stupid. It's a genuinely good example of the bad slasher movie. It's full of blood, boobs and rampaging killers. And it has such a weird vibe to it, and I don't mean an intentionally surreal or dreamlike fashion. It feels like a bad Google Translate version of an American slasher. Like Body Count, it's just weird how they can get so close but also so wrong. It's like they're baking a cake and they've got their eggs and their flour and everything else present and correct, but then at the last minute decide that instead of sugar, they're going to use garlic. You have to give this movie a shot. It is absolutely fantastic in all the worst ways. Anyway, on a quick festive note, I was going to look at a movie that was something more in keeping with the season, but realised there are so many holiday movies that have been covered by people with so much more to say on the topic. But I hope the snowbound setting of Blood Tracks is enough to bring you some holiday cheer and chills. So I'd like to wish you a joyous and happy whatever you choose to celebrate, and hope that whatever it is you do this holiday season is even better than you hoped for. Thank you so much for listening over the last few months and for all the support you've shown Real Obscure. I truly, truly appreciate it. And on that note, it's time for me to sign off, and I'll see you on the next episode of Real Obscure. This episode of Real Obscure was written, produced, edited, and features boobs by me, Kevin H. Shaw. If you enjoyed this, then please like, share, comment, subscribe, and follow. You can learn more about the show by visiting realobscurepod.com, where you'll also find links to our other episodes, plus news, updates, and more. Your feedback is welcomed, and if you have anything you'd like to share with us, you can do so by emailing hellorealobscure@gmail.com. Our theme tune for Manfredo and Siggy was written using Udio, as was our background music, The Monster Dog. Blood Tracks is copyright 1985. All content here is used for educational and commentary purposes under Section 107 of the Copyright Act, Fair Use, and remains the property of the respective copyright holders. Presented here for the purposes of critique, commentary, and discussion. No copyright infringement is intended. So please, don't make me dance about in the snow in sexy lingerie again.